now turned on the record button. Let me turn on Anonymous Coward also. Our recordings have started. Okay. I'd like to remind everybody that we record these meetings. What goes on the internet stays on the internet. Okay. Anybody in this session can be recording the meeting. Anonymous Coward is using Linux simple screen recorder, and we're using the built-in recorder for Zoom record this for our standard recording. And okay, yeah, Gary's still not here. All right, today is the 14th of July, 2021. We start out with a, well, I got a fuzzy picture. We start out with a basic kind of tutorial thing. I'm not really ready.
Lens, Stan.
Yeah.
And whoever is typing, mute themselves.
Oh,
that seems to have helped.
That's Lee. That's Lee. He's trying to correct the world. Thank you. I wiped off the thing, and it's not fuzzy anymore. All right. We start the sessions with. What do we start the sessions with? We start with a base topic. It's something fundamental, introductory, or instructive, or really simple. And I inadvertently volunteered to do a simple thing today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my computer screen, if I can remember where the buttons are. I'm on the wrong thing there. And share. There, the green button. Okay. Share the entire screen. Yes. Okay. Come on. All right. Come on. I'm trying to share, and it's not working. Well, that's not going to work. If I can't share my screen, I can't share the presentation. As I always say, every day it's different. That sucks.
I see your screen now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm supposed to be sharing my entire laptop or all my screens, and it's not. And it's only sharing. It's only sharing my laptop screen, and it's not sharing the. I had this worked last week. What's wrong with it? Come on. There we go. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, this is the St. Louis Unix Users Group. Like I said, it's July 14th, 2021. We start out with a base topic, something fundamental, introductory, instructive, or simple. I volunteered to do a thing about a database entry form in Calc, the LibreOffice spreadsheet thing. The definition that they provide in their help thing is data entry form is a tool to make table data entry easy in spreadsheets. With the data entry form, you can enter, edit, and delete records or rows of data and avoid horizontal scrolling when the table has many columns or when some columns are very wide. A lot of people have spreadsheets and the thing got 300 columns. So you need to put in something in columns 3 and 4, and then you got to slide all the way to column 57 to put something in. Well, with data form, and I believe I've been told that Microsoft Excel has had this for years, but they just in the last year and a half, 2 years, that they added it into LibreOffice. Let's see here. We will go. I've got a spreadsheet here. Here's an example of the attendance that I've been tracking for these meetings. And here's an example of a first name, last name is what I try to gather. And this is not sorted in alphabetical order, but once you get it sorted in alphabetical order, you can sort it this way, go up and sort it, boom, and that sorts by last name. Okay, what I'm going to do is I can go here, and today is the 14th, and I can put myself in there. And see, Ed Holland. But that's doing it in the actual spreadsheet. It's not doing it with the form. With the form, now, if you had, imagine if you had something that was 50 columns wide, or 60 or whatever. Well, what you do is you go up to the menu thing, and where it says data, you click on data, and you go down to where it says form. And well, before you do that, you have to highlight the fields like that, and then you go data, form, and it presents you with an input form. Okay, the first entry I had in there was Stan record, and then I go to the next record, Ed Holland, and then if I go to the next record, I can put in Rich Seibel and click as a new record. It entered it in the data form for you. Very handy. The trick I found is you have to go over and you have to highlight those columns before you create the data form, because it'll pick up all the columns that you highlight. Now, if you close that just for grins, I'm going to go up to help and LibreOffice help online. It describes it quite well. And la 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 la, come on machinery. I'm waiting for the internet. Anyway, it gives you the same description. It gives you some examples, and it describes everything. And you can see, I think I may have to, oh, I'm operating the wrong doggone field here. Help. I guess not. My problem is, there's Gary. About time you showed up. Anyway, that's a simple form. That's here, and it's how it's used. For some reason, I'm not getting the help screen to come up. I had it working earlier. Yeah, okay. Data form. There's the data form. Okay. And Gary Meyer. Okay. And you click on new, and you can go previous record, next record, so forth. The thing is, you can go in and correct something, but you have to, if you correct a record, and they had the name spelled wrong, and you have to hit the new button in order to change that spelling. The previous record, go back, and even though I might correct it, if I went to previous record or next record, it doesn't change until I hit the new button. It's something I found out. Anyway,
it says help on the bottom of your input screen there.
It says on the left side.
of the bottom of your input screen.
I'm
your-
looking. I'm looking. I don't see it.
Well, it says help on the one you're showing me.
Huh. The left-hand corner or right-hand corner?
Left-hand bottom corner. Underneath the data entry areas.
Oh,
On the data.
really?
Yeah, data.
Okay.
form. Is that the
Oh,
help
that.
about?
Yeah. I don't know. That's not the help that I was trying to get to, but maybe that's conflicts. I don't know. Anyway, the thing, the other thing I wanted to point out is, okay, we've got data entered here, and how do you, let's see, let me close this. Let me, data, where is it? Come on, machinery. If I wanted to sort these, I go from this field, I hold down the shift key. Nope, that's not right.
Help, I've been erased.
Well, we didn't need you anyway. Anyway, shoot, I keep hitting the wrong button. It is tricky. Shift button, and then you mark it. Don't it's not cooperating with me. These are the kind of problems you never have when you're doing it all by yourself and you don't have to show anybody anything. There we go. Got that highlighted, and then I started in the lower right corner and worked up to the upper left corner. Then I can go up to the sort button and click sort, and it'll properly sort. So that's just a simple demonstration of using that data form. And like I said again, you've got your data entry here. You have to shift and mark the columns, and then you go to the menu data and submenu form, and then it'll build that form for you. And you can page through what you got. When you get to a blank field, you can add people as you go along, or whatever data it is. Then, of course, you have to use a new button. It's got a delete button, and it's got a previous record and the next record, previous, so forth. Does anybody have any questions about how to use this thing? Got a much better description up online. Go ahead.
If you have another column that is not directly next to the columns that you have selected, does the data form also work?
Let's see. I imagine, yeah, the data form would work. You have to say you had 12 columns or whatever. You'd have to, what you could do. Let me close this. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong machine. Let me close this.
You have a third column there already. I mean, you got.
Well, yeah, you mark it. Say.
You could use control. If you select it with control, it will not select the one in the middle.
Right. What you can do is you can do a right click and you can hide that column. Once you hide that column, then you can mark these and then do a data form. I think this will work. There we go. It shows the third. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Cool.
So I imagine you could build a macro to really speed this up if you had something with 47 columns and you needed columns 2, 3, and 27. You know, I imagine you could build something like that, but I don't use it that much. This is just the first time that I've had a need for this kind of thing. So If you don't have real work to do, you don't learn anything.
Yeah,
Don't have a real. Go ahead, John.
I just tried selecting like the 3 columns that are not adjacent by
Right.
using the control select, and that did weirdly that did not work. But the hiding, yes, that seems to work nicely.
Yeah, I've found a lot of cases where you there's a hide option for the columns, and I've done that quite a bit for different things. But you know, nothing. Well, I don't have any spreadsheet stuff that I consistently have to do, so I tend to forget about some of that stuff on various times. Okay.
Did you try shift select? That might work.
Yeah, I did, but you have to do the shift and then select the column in order to get the columns, multiple columns. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't use the shift, I mean, you can select a column, but then you go to the next column. Without the shift, you only get the one that you're just doing. So
you press Control, you can select individual ones as well.
Yeah. Data.
I have an unrelated question to the data form.
Uh-oh.
Go
ahead.
So is this particular spreadsheet the one that you use to determine eligibility for voting in the all-important elections in February?
Yes. Are you planning on running? I'll put your name on the ballot.
No. The reason I asked the question...
Anybody here that does not want their name on the ballot, send me a $10 bill, and I'll make sure your name is not on the ballot.
No, the question I have about that is, because I'm assuming you've got like, 1 row per person, right? And I wanted to know how you were able, because it's got to be like, if somebody was eligible, they had to attend any 2 months in 1 year, any particular meeting, and any 2 of those within 1 year.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, so
calendar year.
Do you have a macro that does like a pivot table, or how do you, or you just do it by hand?
have not figured that out yet.
Oh, so you're just doing it by hand.
I'm doing it by hand so far, and
okay. I'm just
if you notice on the screen at the bottom, all these colored tabs, those are separate sheets.
What, one for each month or for each year?
One for each meeting.
Oh, for each meeting. Okay.
Okay. Like I said, I haven't figured out how to join all that stuff together. And you're right, it's probably gonna have to be done with a macro of some kind, or what I could kludge it and generate some kind of data CVS file and pump it into a real database.
Yeah, SQLite right there for you.
Yeah. Well, Microsoft, or not Microsoft, LibreOffice has a base. It's a hyper. It's a built-in database, or it can use other bases. You can use MySQL, PostgreSQL, even DBase 2 data forms, and you can feed stuff in. And I think it does. There's a list of 3 or 4 other databases that it's built for. Behind the scenes, it uses Java, and it has all kinds of import forms and all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's see. I want to close this. I want to save what I've done. And here's stuff I'm working on, and a spreadsheet. Where's my database? Here's a database I've got. Boom. This is the database in LibreOffice. Looks very much like the Microsoft thing, doesn't it? Works quite very much like the same thing. Okay. This is something I built for my high school reunion thing, and it's got data entry forms. Come on, machinery. I hit the button. It should come up. It should come. Okay. And yeah. This guy's missing. Have you seen this guy? That picture is only 50 years old, but have you seen him? We're looking for him. We don't know where he went. Okay. You know, you can do reports and all kinds of stuff with this thing. It's a very good database. And shoot, I'm going to close that out. And I don't have a copy of the other. No, I don't have it on this machine. But anyway, the nice thing about the LibreOffice stuff, the good thing and the bad thing is it uses the writer data structures to build the screens and a couple other things. So it's not very intuitive, but once you get into it, it's very responsive. And not responsive is not the word I'm looking. You can build it to look however you want through the data fields. You can move them around and so forth, and you can do calendar drop downs and things like that, and you can use you can set things so that it is actually deals with a relational database, so you can have fields that tie to another sub table. So instead of a code for something, you could have it restricted to an entry that says for example, the blue meeting and the red meeting and the green meeting, if you had colored meetings, you know, and or fields, or you have a field that's for department, you know, sales, accounting, or whatever, so that it consistently puts that data in. Very strong database, very strong. Matter of fact, I use it to build the. Oh, finally, there's the help I was looking for. Help under calc, and there's the entry for the data entry form right there. And it describes it. That's the description I gave, and then it gives information about how to activate it, where to activate it, and gives you an example here, whatever. So if anybody wants to use it, they can either refer back to this very minimal demonstration that I've done, or then go to the help online, and it'll tell you a number of things. Of course, I don't think it described the how the sorting was that I did, and hiding the fields, but that's something I kind of picked up on my own, and it's kind of a tip if you want to call it that. Any other
How did you hide
suggestions or questions? Yes.
How did you hide that column again?
Say again.
How did you hide that column?
Oh, I put the mouse over the column, like column B, and did a right click, and it brings up an option to close the column, to hide the column. And if you want to bring it back, you click on any of the columns, right click, and then one of the options will be to show all columns. You know, it'll bring it back. Okay.
And I'm sorry, which click was that to bring it back?
A right click on the mouse.
I thought that's what hit it.
It brings up a menu that you can hide it or reveal it.
Got it.
And plus about 5 other things that it does. I don't have that memorized. Okay.
Okay.
All right. It is 30 minutes into whatever I was doing. So GUI middle, Gary.
All righty. And we're just about right on time. This is the monthly general meeting of the St. Louis Unix Users Group. It's Wednesday, July the 14th. And as Stan just said, we do a GUI middle part of the meeting. The opening of our meeting and the end of our meeting are the 2 cookie ends. That's where the formal talks are. The GUI middle is where we do announcements and a general Q&A, questions that don't have necessarily anything to do with the presentations of that evening. So that's where we are right now, is that GUI middle. So we got announcements. Later tonight, we'll have the talk on PXE Boot. Next Thursday, let's see. Stan, you got something up there. Can you go to the calendar possibly? Thank you. Next Thursday is the monthly St. Louis Linux user group meeting, and that'll be at 6:30 next Thursday. The presentation will be Michael Carrington from SUSE. He's spoken to us a number of times in the last couple of years, and at one point we talked about just doing a general SUSE update, or perhaps it'll be on this release that just came out. 1.3. We've also talked about maybe showing the distinctions of open SUSE versus SUSE Enterprise. And of course, with the changes that y'all remember from CentOS being deprecated here over the winter, there's some interest in, okay, what's the difference between OpenSUSE and SUSE Enterprise? So yeah. So anyway, we haven't quite got a complete abstract from him and what he's going to talk about, but those are some possibilities, and certainly I'm sure he'll answer whatever questions you have about SUSE. So, so come next Thursday night. Let's see, other things coming up. Let's see, Stan or Lee, is there any change in our usual calendar as far as Slack or new users log?
No.
Okay, so the standard dates for that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, the St. Louis Unix users group is generally on the 3rd or 4th Thursday of the month, and that's because of how the calendars lay out. But it's always, what is it, Ed? 8 days after this meeting is the St. Louis Linux user
the
group.
only one that's tied to another meeting 8 days
Yeah.
after.
Okay. Well, and then the new lug is 5 days after it.
Almost always, yes.
Well, yeah, except we kind of move things around during the Christmas holidays sometimes. I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet, but it may be the new lug might be a week early that month or not, whatever. But anyway, for those that don't know, the new lug is for newcomers, the newcomers Linux users group, and then there's a St. Louis area computer club. That's we often do a Linux configuration workshop, troubleshooting, that kind of stuff. When we were doing live face-to-face meetings, people would bring in their computers that had problems. We'd work on them. It didn't necessarily have to be a Linux machine. We have had the notorious Phil Bunch work on Apple machines. He even had a loaded Linux on an Apple machine for some guy, and then the following month the guy came to one of the meetings and he brought an Apple computer, so he helped figure out how to make the Apple computer print out of Linux out of a Apple hardware. So, but that's Phil, because Phil is very versatile in hardware like that. So I show up at those meetings and I can barely spell the word hardware, so I rely on him and Gary McKee when he happens to grace our presence. We also have a steering committee meeting. It's usually about 9 days prior to this meeting. It's usually on a Monday, and depending on things, it may be on a different date or whatever. It's usually could be the tail end of the last Monday of the previous month or the first Monday, just depends. Go ahead, Gary.
All right. Let's see. There's just a whole bunch of little anniversaries, you know, those big 0 ending and 5 ending anniversaries here in the last couple of weeks and the next week. For instance, tomorrow is the 105th anniversary of Boeing being incorporated. It's also the 15th anniversary of Twitter being launched. So a number of other anniversaries on there as well. So if you're into a little bit of history, take a look at the calendar and spot some of the anniversaries. So one interesting thing that happened here in town over the July the 4th weekend, did anybody go to that esports tournament down at the convention center? Nobody? That's a shame.
We heard about it and put it on the calendar, but that was about it.
We did. It was Friday through Sunday. It was a national esports, I guess it was collegiate level. And to tell you the truth, I haven't even availed myself to look up who the big winner was. I know on Saturday, both Maryville University and St. Louis University were both in there fighting. And Maryville actually is a national powerhouse in esports. They won a couple of the tournaments years ago. So
I'd like to point out that us old guys don't generally play computer games that much. However, we did have last month, we had Rudy Tyler did a presentation for us, and we recorded the session, and he did. Oh, actually, it wasn't last month. It was the when the heck was it?
3 years ago.
I don't remember when it was.
It was the St. Louis Linux meeting, but
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. If
No,
I think
there was.
last month.
It was last month. Okay, migrating to Linux, keeping his games, and it wound up. He was mostly talking about how he was getting games and making them work on his Linux machine. And he said he started out, the reason he wanted to see how if he converted his main workstation to Linux, if he'd be able to do all his work at his job that was Microsoft related. And he said about 2 sentences about that. So we assumed that he had absolutely no problem at all using his Linux box to work with everything he had to deal with at work. It was Microsoft environment. And he just really dove into the gaming. And if you'll notice on our main page, our main group here, over on the right, it says past meetings and this presentation archives. You know, we got an MP4, the whole session, and the text of the chat room stuff, which is on there. But on the MP stuff, if you click there through your browser, you can see the whole video. And it was like, what, a 2-hour session or so? Something like that. So if you're interested in gaming, you can go check that out, along with any of these other games. Now, a question I have for the gallery here. Does anybody go look at these videos that we've been recording? Don't hold up your hand.
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Anybody else?
I've watched a few. Yep.
Okay. Well, we got the people in the choir saying they do. I don't know. I wanted to make sure people knew that was available.
And I'll point out to those of you, I mean, certainly any of you who are here on this meeting, you're welcome to go out and look at previous ones, but anybody can look at them. So tell your friends and family if they're, talk about something. Gee, I wish I knew something about gaming on Linux or some other topic. Say, hey, go out and look at what SLUUG's recorded. You can pull it up and watch it yourself.
Of one of very particular interest that should be for your friends and family is a presentation Scott Greneman did in March on 1Password, the password security vault system. And everybody, you should look at that, and you probably should recommend that your friends and family look at it. And although it's, very specific to 1Password, it gives you an idea of what a password vault can do for you. If you wind up and you have to, 15 or 20 passwords you have to deal with, that's where you need to keep them. You don't need to get out your wallet and pull out that $100 bill that you're not going to spend and write your password on the edge of that $100 bill. Okay, because you might have an accident where you have to pay that $100 bill to get your car towed, and then you've lost your password. Okay. 1Password kind of solves that particular problem. Anything else, Gary?
There's been a series that we've had here, and to be honest, I don't remember what day it's coming up on. It's one of these U.S. Geospace Information Foundation days. I want to say, no, it's not August. It's one of the days in August, and I'll track down which thing it is and make sure it's out there. But it'll be the Army. They went through all of the branches of the military, and so the Army's day is coming up in August, and it's basically how the Army uses geospace information. So the position satellites, GPS satellites, maps, how the databases work. And obviously, there's a lot of good military applications and a lot of good civilian applications. Imagine most of you have been following one of the big economic factors in the city of St. Louis is they just built, or they're in the process of building the new Geospace Information Center in just north of downtown. And so the number of GIS type positions in St. Louis, there's going to be a lot more job openings than that. So should be a hot growing area. So, and by the same token, it's a little bit more than a month away. August the 17th and 18th is the Missouri GIS conference. And I believe it's in Columbia. Yes, it's in Columbia. But you can either go in person to Columbia and attend the conference there, or you can do it online. But again, all kinds of good, interesting GIS stuff that you may be able to use to get employment in the area. With that, let's see. If there are no other announcements, I think the next thing would be the general Q&A. Anybody got a question on anything at all? Has something to do with
What
computer?
day is Jeff Bezos going into space?
Funny you should ask. I believe it's on our calendar. Let's see, look at next Tuesday. Yep, next Tuesday. First Blue Origin manned, Jeff Bezos. So 7 days from now.
Where is it? Oh, Tuesday.
Mhm. I haven't heard an exact time of day, so we just know that that's the day that they've specified.
That capsule is a lot different than the Branson vehicle, the Virgin Galactic. It's more akin to the Elon Musk thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it goes up higher than the Virgin Galactic does. Of course, it doesn't have the beauty of being an airplane.
We'd like to point out that the entries we have on the calendar, it used to be, it would be predominantly physically meetings in St. Louis area, but we've started including more stuff that can be attended virtually. And myself and Gary do most of the entries on the calendar. I'm starting to echo.
One interesting twist there, since you brought it up, the date that Sir Richard Branson went up last Sunday, that was actually the 10th anniversary of the last space shuttle launch, and I was amazed. No one pointed that out. Seemed kind of neat that it was that anniversary. So let it go. Other questions?
Call for help.
Call for help. Or you can even just make a comment of, hey, I was playing with this and I was surprised because smoke came out of the back of my box.
Help.
Oh, yes.
I'm a newbie. This is my first meeting, and actually I'm running Linux as a network server in the house, and I'm having a lot of trouble trying to get my Windows laptops to connect to the Linux. Samba's working great. Yeah, I have no trouble with a laptop that runs Ubuntu, but Windows, both Windows 7 and Windows 10, I have been unable to get past the I guess it's the password or ID.
The configuration. I would recommend you go to the website learnlinux.tv. There's a guy named Jay LaCroix out of Toronto, or no, he's out of Detroit. I'm sorry. and he's got a number of videos. He's got a little series on doing Samba that is very up to date and very informative. Other than having hands-on help for you, that's about the best that I can recommend. But learn
What was
Linux.
that website again?
LearnLinux.tv.
Thank you.
And myself, I used to do Samba, but I was doing it wrong. And I kind of gave up on it, but then I don't have any Windows machines at all anymore, and I don't have friends and family come on over with their Windows laptops, so I completely use Fuse SSH between the Linux boxes, and I connect from my systems to I do sharing with our main box system when I do the updates to the web pages, and it works. It looks like just like you're doing a Samba share, same kind of deal. Only all it does is you install some files, and it's just a matter of a couple of command line things that I've got aliased, and bam, I can connect in a heartbeat. And
You're a lucky man. You walked away from Windows. Good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
One of the problems that we've had with Samba is you've got to be very cautious that your username has to be the same on the Linux operating system and Samba, and the password has to be exactly the same on Linux and Samba.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, if they get out of sync, good luck.
By the way,
I don't think that's
Thanks a
true.
lot.
There's a file that allows you to map Unix names to Windows names.
Yes.
And the passwords, when you map your Samba share, when you're on your Windows machine and you say, attached to this server, it's going to say, what's your username and password on that server? And they don't have to match the username and password that's on the Windows machine.
No, they do not have to match. But you have to remember, don't give it your Windows username and password. Give it your Linux username and password after you've synchronized it with Samba.
Has anybody got experience with using a GUI to set up and manage your Samba shares rather than editing all the config files?
It used to be a GUI for that. I can't remember the name of it, but it's so out of date and not maintained anymore. It's not worth messing with, because like everything else, it's the terminology is you're better off just fighting with the Samba configuration file.
Is it webmin, or is webmin for a different purpose?
It's
Webmin was at one time really the premier way to do it, but I don't know how long they've kept it up to date.
Yeah.
The person asked a question. What was his main difficulty?
Samba.
I asked
Jack
the question.
Martin. Jack Martin, I believe.
Directed to you. Jack, you still with us? I think.
Yes, yes.
I think Stanford was asking you what you were finding the main difficulty with Samba.
Don't have a problem with Samba. I have a problem with Windows. The Windows machines.
Oh, we all do.
The Windows machines can see the network, but they can't connect. And I'm having an ID password issue. And
yeah. Hey, Jack. Two things to remember: the ability to see the server on a Windows box is provided by NMB, NetBIOS. to connect to it, you need to authenticate with Samba. And there are like 3 versions of the SMB protocol.
Right. Yeah.
And you need to make sure that you've got the highest ones enabled, because Windows doesn't like connecting with Samba 1, which is the default.
Yeah. I've upgraded to SMB 3.
Okay.
I was aware of Windows stopped supporting SMB 1.
Well, you can make it talk SMB1, but you have to go in and modify the registry, and it's not worth it.
Right, and I didn't want to do that.
A simple way to do it is on the Linux box, just do MySQL or SMB client and connect to the share on the Linux box with the username and password you want to use. And that way you can verify that Samba has been set correctly. You follow?
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, in my experience, Linux has simplified it, because SMB client do // host name / share name minus capital U for user or minus capital P for password, and you don't have to fool with all the stupid / diddle crap you have to on Windows.
Yeah. That's a tech term, right? Diddle crap?
It's a nice way of putting it.
Yes.
The most technical of terms.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, if you still have problems, post something on Discuss.
Okay.
To be more precise, those are Omnitech terms.
Omnitech is Lee's company, and Stanford's done some work with Omnitech as well. So yeah, that's one of those inside company jokes.
Gotcha.
But you make me. I think I should have mentioned, for those of you who are either here for your first time or haven't been here for a while. Yep, we're kind of we like to think of ourselves as a small, friendly group. We've actually been around for 30 years now, which is hard to believe, but the rules for membership are pretty simple. We don't collect dues, and it basically is, if you show up twice to any of our meetings in a calendar year, you're considered a member. So so come on back, or welcome back, and yeah, open your mouth, raise your hand, whatever, anytime, and join the conversation. So. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none. Okay, we'll go to the back end of our Oreo cookie, feature presentation for the evening. PXE Boot for doing remote boots across the network. Our presenter is Wendell Barber. He's been a member of our group for, years. And he's really been involved in a bunch of different things. The last presentation he did for us was on penetration testing. And he's been a user of FreeNAS, been doing Raspberry and desktop, Ubuntu, Docker, Nextcloud server, sync thing running in jails, set up an Apple Time Machine backup server. So he's had his fingers in a lot of things, and we always appreciate it when he comes to our meetings and takes part in the Q&A sessions, and when he can do a presentation for us, we really appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wendell.
Hey, let me see if I can share the screen I want. Desktop 2.
Greetings, Wendell. Good to see you.
Is it showing? Is it sharing?
We're seeing you, Wendell. I'm not seeing any content from you, but I'm seeing you.
Okay. That is gonna work.
The green button.
That's what I'm doing, and then it's here it says open system preferences, security, and privacy to grant access.
I changed something.
Well, Wendell, let me grant you co-host. That may be what you're missing.
Okay.
Try it again.
So it says open system preferences, security and privacy to grant access.
Sounds like your OS is blocking Zoom from doing something.
Yeah.
When you hit the share screen, the green button at the bottom, does it show an option like for entire screen?
Yeah. It's,
Window. If you do the entire screen, it'll show everything as you from that point on as you move around on your machine. If you click on, are you running Firefox or Chromium? Chromium, it'll show tabs. You can share any particular tab, or window. You would show background things, but the entire screen is about the easiest thing to show. So then once you start that, you can move to your presentation.
Okay.
Let me make sure I got my sharing turned off completely.
Open system preferences. Security and privacy. Oh, darn.
There you go. But you had it there for a second.
Yeah, for a second.
You probably double clicked and it came in and went back out.
John E just posted in chat that flash was him that just came in, and it worked for him in Firefox.
Okay. So.
Thank you, John.
Oh. Wendell.
Yep.
In the kick panel down below where it says share screen, the little green button. You're clicking on that, correct?
Yep.
Okay, when you click on that, it should pop up a thing that says choose what to share.
Yeah, and I'm choosing, and then it says allow Zoom to share your screen, open system preferences, security and privacy to grant access. I'm using Safari. I don't know which.
Gary Meyer, do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
You run your Mac?
Oh, I'm on the Mac right now.
I just thought that since Wendell said he's using Safari, I didn't know if you wanted to confirm that you could share the screen using your Mac on Safari.
Okay.
I'm not having any luck sharing either.
Okay, I should be sharing.
I am?
Yep, we're on a screen.
That's not mine. That's Wendell.
That's Gary Meyer is sharing.
Yep, I'm showing a email page. Stan's comment and Wendell's bio.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so yep, I came right up. That was just from hitting I hit the green new share button, and that brought up image of all my open desktops, all my open pages or screens, excuse me. And then as Stan said in the at the bottom of the list of open screens, there was a share button, a blue share button on the lower right-hand side.
We got something now. Steve.
Yeah,
Steve's
you know
sharing
what's
something.
funny is as soon as I did that, that whole screen disappeared from my screen. Now I hit stop share, and now I can see Stan.
Okay.
What was I sharing, Stan?
Looked like it might have been some document or command line stuff or something like that. It's with gray
Yeah.
background and white letters. I didn't.
Hang
You
on,
know.
this is screwy. This works.
That's a problem.
It's like we find a new fun way to not share our screen every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I give up. Uncle, I'm declaring uncle.
Yeah.
Maybe Wendell could pick PXE Boot into a new distro or whatever and share from that.
You're not working.
I'm not sure that's funny.
Well, on occasion, the disconnecting or stopping the browser and restarting it might help. You know, reconnect.
Have you tried going into the system settings and setting the permissions like Zoom is asking?
Yep.
I have found that sometimes it initially ignores you and you have to do it again. So, I don't know. That's the only reason I suggested he disconnect and try to reconnect with the browser.
Let me see.
This is amazing. This is the first week that I haven't been real colorful in my language.
Yeah, you're doing a good job, Stan.
Yeah. It's not really me, it's somebody else.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, who are you and what have you done with Stan?
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I do have hummingbirds here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're putting
So
on the
zen
Battle
and
of
peaceful.
Britain out at our place. Boy,
Yep.
they fight. Ooh. They're aggressive little buggers.
I think Wendell got off and got on, I think.
No, the birds in Texas are louder.
Wendell's opened a second session.
Hey, James, are you down in Texas now?
I am. San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Oh, I was stationed there for a number of years.
Is it
In the
Riverwalk
military.
still exist?
It still exists. It's still popular. It's still beautiful. I hop on and think, what? I'm in a city?
Wow.
Yeah, it's. God, I was there in 1970. Only time I was ever in San Antonio.
And what did Dan say? He spent a couple of years there one weekend?
Something like that. No, it wasn't bad. That's just personal tragedies later on. I was running a Wang VS100 system. Loved that system.
That was the one where they designed their own keyboard, wasn't it?
Yeah. Old Dr. Wang had all the patents for IBM's storage, so he would do anything he wanted, and they didn't mess with him. You could
Oh, geez.
You could look at the manual the IBM manuals side by side with the Wang manuals, and they said exactly the same thing, except down at the bottom it said Wang instead of IBM. You could turn them page for page, and about the only difference between the system was there was a different control key on the printer, on a print file, that was internally, and then everything else was it had a menu-driven database creation system for creating a flat database, and Tom's Hardware, that website, they hosted a whole bunch of tools. And I was, at the time when I started down there, I was a COBOL programmer. You could take the tools from Tom's Hardware and run it against a COBOL program, and it would, in about 3 minutes, it would generate, like, from the database, it would generate a COBOL program of about 900 lines. And then you could go into the COBOL and link multiple databases together. You had relational databases. And it was a marvelous system for a COBOL programmer, because the editor was just beautiful. They would say the people that started, COBOL programmers that went to using the Wang editor for IBM stuff, never wanted to go back. I mean, it was just amazing. But the problem was, everything was, all our workstation was microcode, and it wasn't really well. It was, let's put it this way, it's horrendous. Okay. Yeah, shoot. Oh well, and that was back in the days when we had dedicated phone lines with AT&T or Ma Bell or whatever, and they would, even though we're paying for dedicated lines, they would steal our lines, and we'd have to try to connect to Kansas, and we couldn't connect to Kansas. Well, why not? Well, they needed earlier in the day, they needed that line to go to Chicago for the banking system, so they stole our line. Well, even the machines we had to test the lines would say, no, it's a good line. There's a lot of quality there and everything. It works. But no, it wasn't there.
It works. You just can't use it.
That's right. You can't use it. There was a good line, but we couldn't use it because they had it tied to something else. Oh, that was when you learned that the phone company is definitely not your friend.
That's what you get for being in the company where corporate headquarters is. It's like, yeah, that's always the first place you're robbed.
Yeah.
Okay. Wendell, I see you're on camera. What's happening, man?
He's muted. He's still muted. Well,
he dropped.
Yeah. He was just enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, I guess so. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
So James,
I will say.
Are you down there in San Antonio temporary duty, or is this permanent change of station, or what?
Seems like a permanent change of station. I accepted a position down here as a DevOps kind of guy. I'm still not sure what DevOps means, but I'm here. I'm working.
Hey, at least they're paying you, right?
I think a lot of DevOps don't know what DevOps stands for.
Oh, really? It's one of those buzzwords like, oh, are we doing agile right?
Anyway, the one thing I did not like about San Antonio was the newspaper I would not wrap fish in. It was so bad. Oh, it was, yeah, it made I got more national news from the St. Charles Journal that I subscribed to and had mailed to me than I got out of the local newspaper. Honestly, I would not wrap fish in that paper. It was that bad. Other than that, it was a nice duty, And at the time I was in the military, and I was stationed across the street from the Quadrangle, which is where the 5th Army headquarters is, and it's the old fort where they back in where they had held Geronimo when they captured him.
Yeah.
In You can go up to the one wall where they had him chained up, and they got a little plaque there. It says, "This is where we had Geronimo for a time." And the thing about the quadrangle, it's like it's a big buildings all around. It's got an open area in between where they have deer and peacocks and doves and all kinds of little furry animals and stuff like that. And every once in a while, the deer would run out the gate, and the MPs would have to go catch the deer downtown San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, they have koi at the Alamo, and Wendell, I saw he had just popped on, and he's gone again.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, there he
Still trying to
is.
figure it out. So
Okay.
Isn't it great when technology works?
First, did we just hear Wendell?
Yeah, we heard him.
say what?
I
Hey there,
can't
Wendell.
understand what you said, Wendell.
I said I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay. So you hit the share screen button, and then what happens?
Then it pops up like what desktop, what I want to share, browser, whatever. So I had it on, I guess, desktop 2. And when I click that, it says allow Zoom to share your screen, open system preferences, security and privacy to grant access.
And did you grant access?
I'm trying to find where it says security and preferences at.
There should be a button right on that thing that popped up.
No, that sounds like an Apple setting.
Yeah.
Oh. I can't spell Apple.
Down in your dock, the gear icon, that's the system preferences dock icon. Let's see.
Oh, okay. I see.
I don't see anything on here about, what am I trying to, sharing or anything. I don't see anything on here about permissions. I've got the window that says select a window or an app you want to share.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing on there about permissions.
But are you on Apple OS, iOS, whatever they're calling it now?
No, I'm on Linux. Is that my problem?
It's Wendell's
no,
problem.
it's not a problem, Steve. It's a solution.
Yeah.
That sounds like the bullshit that used to come out of our marketing department.
Ooh.
Steve is
you're
sharing screen.
Wait, something happened.
Okay, it went away.
Wendell is saying that he's running 2 monitors, and so I don't know if anybody's got an Apple with 2 monitors and how difficult it is to share an app that's displaying on the second screen.
Oh, it says I can also share an app. So let's see.
Maybe you could just share the application that he does the presentation with. I assume.
Are you seeing just
the one terminal? Yes.
Terminal?
Okay, I'm seeing Steve's screen right now. He's got a blue screen of death, or a green screen of death, or a green screen of text.
Yeah, we get a look into
there was
his
a way
network.
for me to see what the thing is seeing.
This may not be an Apple problem. Has anybody got a Linux machine with 2 monitors?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, all the time. But when I hit share screen, I get desktop 1, desktop 2, right in the top left.
Yeah.
Desktop 1 is the right-hand monitor. Desktop 2 is the left-hand monitor. It's passed backwards for some reason. There you go.
Wendell, yay! Hey, we see you. Wendell, we see it.
What happened?
Nebraska. The Huskers, Nebraska Huskers. Yay!
Yay!
Let me go, because I have it on a server. Gotta log into it. Bring the presentation up.
Guys, I'm going to drop off of here for about 3 or 4 minutes. I got to reboot this computer.
Thanks for the warning.
I'll be back.
Okay, quick, everybody log off. We'll go meet on a different Zoom call. He'll never find us.
Let's see.
By the way, while hearing furious typing in the background, I have to say I was extremely disappointed. There's that stuff that came out for the Emmy Awards, TV Awards, and I can't believe there was nothing at all about that show called Next that was on Fox. They did no advertising for it. I thought it was a good show about artificial intelligence, and I mean, it just, yeah, I think if they had advertised it some, it would have caught on, and it certainly should have gotten Emmy.
While we're waiting for the show to begin, my friend and I were telling jokes this weekend, and we came up with a new one. Does anybody know what the last note in the Star Spangled Banner is? Well, for people of a certain age, it goes like this. Dun 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 dun.
That's after midnight, right?
Right.
Oh, shit. That's a good one.
I like it.
Pretty. That's pretty.
I am completely lost.
Yeah, I see it.
What was that? Was that Taps of Reveille or what?
It used to be the TV stations would stop broadcasting at midnight.
Oh, right.
And then they'd play the Star Spangled Banner and go off air, and then you'd get static.
That makes a lot more sense now.
I thought you got the test pattern.
Well, that was
That's if you get the good channels.
yeah. Usually they did the test pattern in the morning. You know.
Oh, okay. I thought they just broadcasted all night long. That's shows you what I know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was a 20-watt bulb, and they didn't want to heat up the area.
And
They had maintenance overnight a lot of times.
Wendell,
Yeah.
are we holding you up, or are you still lining stuff up? Wendell, you're muted.
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
I'm ready.
A suggestion, Wendell, on your presentation, you're doing it right out of LibreOffice. Move your mouse over to the right where the blocks the animation and click that little X. There you go. There. Yay.
All right, well, say, Wendell, I'm not really like, I don't have like an IT job, but I've dabbled with Linux for a while. My network is kind of above the average home user network because sometimes I just get bored and need something to do. So this, as I said before, is my second presentation. First with the PXE Boot, I've always kind of wondered about it. And then since when COVID coming to town, wasn't really too much to do. So again, I was bored and say, why not go ahead and see if I can do it. And it'd be a nice project to learn and figure out what I need to learn and what I kind of like already know. And so the thing I kind of found out about it is, well, let me go, but it kind of already went over my bio first, so I won't repeat this too much of this again, but I did have a desktop computer that was used as a desktop, and I put another NIC in it. I already had one built into the motherboard, and I turned it into a pfSense router, and it blocks a lot of the ads. So when I go to web pages, they are cleaner. I installed Squid. I put a Squid server on there, so it blocks a lot of sites as well. You can input sites that you want won't block. A lot of little projects I've done, which is with SyncThing. I have 3 laptops running SyncThing, Raspberry Pi running SyncThing, and on my Android phone is running SyncThing. And that was another little project I found out through one of the gels you can install, just looking at what FreeNAS has. And so with the PXE boot, the thing I always kind of, well, let me finish this, go through the bio again, finish this part. I had a desktop computer that was running Windows 98, so I put that Bunsen lab on it. Only had, I think, 512 megabytes, 650 hertz processor, and that was something else fun to do. It works, but I don't use it that often. And so I'm sorry I had spelled it wrong, Zenity. I wrote a simple bash script that will pop up that will ask the user if they want to update their system or not. And once it does, if they do that, it runs the update, it runs the upgrade, and it runs the auto remove command to remove any packages or anything that are no longer used. And just as a side note, some people don't believe I drove a truck for 18 years, but I always kind of dabble with in Linux, Mac, and Windows for years, but mostly in the Linux environment.
Wendell, when you were driving, were you independent or driving for somebody else?
I'm sorry?
When you were driving, were you independent or driving for somebody else?
I was driving with somebody else. I did a year over the road, and then I came in and it was, I did local work and long haul. And in between time, I sold furniture for 8 months. I came off the road, sold furniture for 8 months, then started driving local and long haul.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. Well, I was going to do like a simple PXE boot, but it requested more information. Now, when I first started doing it, I kind of just wanted to see how it works. I wasn't really into like the background, how it works in the background. So I did some research because more information was needed. And it says in computing PXE boot execution environment, PXE, specifically describes a standardized client environment that boots a software assembly retrieved from a network on a PXE-enabled client. On the client side, it requires only a PXE-capable network interface controller and uses a small industry standard network protocol such as DHCP and TFTP. Now, the TFTP was new to me, and I watched a number of videos and did a bunch of Google searching to find out exactly how and what TFP is. And at the end, I listed a couple of sources that helped me with, that I've used to help figure it out. But the toughest thing is that not too many people did a PXE boot like I did it. Not saying I'm the first to ever do it. It wasn't too much research on using different devices. Most of them, I think, whatever system they were using, they made that the PXE boot. Well, mine's is different because I'm not using one system. So it took like days and months to try to figure out to get it to work the way I wanted to get it to work the way I wanted to work, because I know it's possible that it could work. So like I have a laptop now that boots to the via the NIC first, and it pulls in the PXE boot menu, which I'll show you. And so sometimes you gotta, as I say, you gotta use F12 to change to the settings so it'll boot from the NIC. And it's a file, that PXE-Linux.0 file that is listed there. I believe you have to have that because it has, I think, like scripts. It tells exactly what it needs to do once the laptop or device requests the I guess the distro or the distribution. And one thing with the PXE Boot is that you don't need a disk or a thumb drive, or you can do like a diskless system, which I've done. And it works, it boots up fine, just the same as if you were using a disk. Now I couldn't get every distro that I used to work, but I got the main ones I wanted to use: Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Kali Linux, Raspbian desktop. I got those two boot just fine. I had trouble with Puppy Linux and Manjaro. And this is how I have this set up, how I have kind of like an illustration how I had it set up. I got my 3 devices up here, laptop and desktop. This is the pfSense, and this is a FreeNAS box. And when they boot, they get the DHCP, they get an IP address from the PF box. And once that's done, then it connects it to, then in here, you'll see that in a minute. You have to put in where the device is located. So it has to have an IP address, a host name that can be resolved to point it to this, whatever device is holding, which in this case is the the FreeNAS box. On the right there, you can generate your own menu. But one thing I found out, if you have too many listed, they will not show. So you have to generate submenus. And you can also use like a little caret. You'll see, and the file, default file that I created, it's a caret you use, and like where they're 8, so you can actually use like the keyboard to select, make a selection versus just always using the up arrow and down arrow keys. This is, so what I did was, what I found out was, I had to create a Samba share and an NFS share. Once I did that, I downloaded the distro and extracted it, and I had to put the image and the kernel in the Samba share, and the rest of the extraction of the ISO in the NFS share. So I had to put the init.rd and the VM Linux files in the Samba share, and the rest of the files went into the NFS share. Now I had to create a folder called pixie-linux.cfg. Once I did that, then there was some information that I came across that said I had to go to the user syslinux/module/bio to pull some files out of it and put them in that pixie-linux.config file. Once that was done, then I had to create a default file that will hold the parameters, PXE Boot parameters, and the menu options. On the right there, that's in a pfSense under, I believe it's the DHCP section, and you enable network booting, and where's next server at, that's whatever IP address the TFP is on. And then that pixie.linux .0 file had to be put in there, and then that BOOTIA 32 and BOOTX64. I put those in there. I don't know if I necessarily need those, but I just leave them in there and it works. And then the root path of where that pixie-linux.0 file is located. So,
excuse me, what is the next server? What does that mean? I think you said that.
Let me go back. Where? Oh,
Right.
that's where, that's whatever is hosting the TFP is located. So so since I have it on a FreeNAS box, I had to put in that IP address. So then when let's say a laptop goes to boot up, the pfSense knows where to send it to finish the boot up process.
Okay, but then there's TFTP server like 4 lines above that.
That is, I think that's the same IP address as well. I had to go back and look.
Okay.
But I believe that's what that is. I'll go and look. But I think that the next server, that has to be in there. And I think the IP address somewhere has to be in there too.
Okay.
So like I said, I kind of know how it works, but I'm still figuring stuff out. So I may be a little edgy on some stuff.
Yeah.
So then you go into the TFTP server settings, and that same IP address you put in there, so then it knows where to direct it to. And I don't know if I needed all of these files. I just added them, but like that libcomp32, that lib menu, the lib, if I'm saying it right, the libtil.c32, the menu, and a visa menu, if I had it in there. Yeah, it said those like the core files you needed to help with the PXE boot process. One time these disappeared and it's still booted up. Just fine, I'm not sure why they disappeared. But this is the default file, and these are up top there. I had put default menu.c32 or it wouldn't boot if I put anything else up there. And the prompt is to basically for it to boot to the first whatever selections you have. And then the timeout is in seconds. So 700 is 70 seconds. I couldn't get the splash background to work. And then the margin, how far I guess you wanted to have to come out from the left side. And then I copied these menu color options, but I didn't like the way the color looked. So then I just put a pound sign in front of them. You can also set a password. I couldn't get it to do it for to access the main menu, but you can set a password for like, I mean, it's not really like, I guess like maybe like totally secure, but you can set a password if you don't want somebody to boot to a certain distro. The label one there, that's just kind of just giving a number to what it is, but the menu label caret with the 1. So when the menu pops up, instead of using the arrow, you can press the 1 on the keyboard. And this is to boot to where if you have a hard drive in your system, to boot directly to the hard drive. So when this times out, it boots directly to the hard drive, but you don't have to have it boot directly to the hard drive. If you wanted to boot to the Ubuntu distro, you can put that, I think, as a default somewhere, and it'll just go to that. So like I just commented out the menu password, So you don't have to put the word password in there. You can actually put whatever you want, and then when it prompts you, you just type in that password, and if it doesn't match, then they can't select like this option here. The kernel, this is actually a Samba share, and you can actually, with the splash, you can put no splash. So if you want to see how everything is loading up, you can put no splash there. The pin, this is where you put like your parameters. And I found out with some distros that have the Casper file, directory, you have to put boot equals Casper or it will not boot. And with the IP address, I found out with some distros, if I didn't put IP equals DHCP, I got like an error message and it would not it eventually just time out. You put like keyboard layouts and stuff. So some of the distros, when they would boot up, they would actually set the time zone and set the keyboard layout for you ahead of time. Some of the parameters I actually pull from looking at a grub menu. So I'm like, you know, if they work, they worked. If not, then I just comment them out. The VGA, the 788, I think it's 10, is it 1024 by 760 something? So the higher the number, the higher the resolution. So you can either set this right here, or you can have have it figured out by itself. Going on to like the net boot. Now, once I found out, I came across this website that said that, you know, you had to create an NFS share. So I copied what they had, how they had it set up. And if I didn't put in a net boot, the root and an NFS root, it would not, it would, cause that's when it tries to go back to, like, if you're booting it from like a USB or a CD or a disk, it would not boot, and it give you some error messages because it's looking for that disk to boot up. So you have to put it like this: the IP address or host name, mount the NFS directory. If you try to put like a file at the end, it will not boot. It'll give you when it tries to mount, in a sense, the disk or whatever as a CD-ROM, it will give you error messages. But on the left here, the options, the quiet, you'll see what that will, because when it goes to load the image and the kernel, it will show that it's loading those. And if you put quiet, it will not show that it's loading those. And you have to have this typed in correctly, or it will give you an error message because it's looking directly, it's looking for wherever this, it's following its path. And if that path is not correct, it will not boot at all. It'll stall. So, but the main things you really have to have on a pin line is that init-rd, the boot Casper, the net boot, the root equals, and an NFS root in order for it to complete the process. Pretty much kind of everything in the middle is kind of optional. So this is another kind of a close-up look at what I did. And also, if you want the username, instead of just being user or whatever it meant, whatever distro it boots up, if you put username and equals whatever you want, when it boots up, and it will actually have, and you go to like a terminal, it will actually have that username in there. Yeah, I guess you really don't have to have that, but if you kind of wanted to personalize it a little bit, this is what I did for a Linux. This is Mint, and this is a OEM boot. And with the OEM boot, if you want to do an OEM, you have to have that OEM-config/enable true in order for it to do the OEM installation. And if you get into the OEM installation and you want to cancel it out, it will go back to the desktop. And if you want to continue, then you just click on the disk icon, and then it'll start it all over again. You'll see that later on as well.
Could you sum up what an OEM boot does for us?
OEM boot, what that does is, like, if what you can do is you can install programs. Like I said, if you got like a customer that wants specific programs, or if you kind of want to sell something, kind of like when you get like buy a laptop from, let's say, like the Micro Center, and they have all this stuff installed that they think that you may want. With the OEM, you can install those ahead of time. Let's say, well, if you want to install like BleachBit or SyncThing or update, put an update for like LibreOffice. What does it have listed? GBrainer, you know, games and stuff like that, or server applications. You can already install those and run updates. And so then what happens is it'll be like an icon on the screen that says, I think, like prepare for user. And once you do that and shut it down, and let's say you give it to somebody, what it would do is it will run through the setup process. They have to select the language, the time zone, they create their own username and password, and then they can run updates after it's done, but it won't take as long because you already did it for them. What a guy had a good idea on YouTube. He was like, if you're gonna sell like, or give out like mass, let's say like 10 systems, what you do is that you do the OEM, and you install the programs, run updates, and you prepare a user and shut it down, but you don't restart it. What you do is you'll clone that system. And once you clone that system to, let's say, like 10 systems, once all them systems start up, it'll start off like a fresh install, like you bought something like out the box. And the person has to select the time zone, the language, and they create their own username and password, versus if you was to do a live distro and install it, you know, doing that installation, you create the username and password yourself. And if you give to somebody, you have to, okay, this is username and password to log in. But if the username and password gets lost, then, you know, they can't log in because they don't have the password you created. Or if they write it down wrong, they can't log in. Versus the OEM, they create a user password during the initial setup. So then once they finish the initial setup of the OEM, everything is installed and they can hit the ground running with the system.
Cool.
So that's the difference between OEM and just a regular install. And you can also, I would say a good practice with a PXE Boot is to do a virtual machine. And I did, so the videos you'll see, I did all of them using a virtual machine and simple screen recorder. So when you do a virtual machine, you don't have to actually create or set up a virtual, I guess, hard drive. You just won't be able to install anything, because when you try to go and install, it's going to look for some type of hard drive, quote unquote, and it won't go through the process of finishing the installation. But you can boot to the desktop, because it has selections, it has some options you can select how you want to complete the booting process. So what I did here is that on the left side is, I guess it really don't matter which side, but on the left side, I created the Samba share. And to make it easier to keep track of which distros I installed, I just would name a directory, that folder, and then that init rd-lz and the VM Linux I will put over here. And then the extracted, the rest of the extracted ISO will be put in an NFC share. So these are, so you have to have these in order to boot. Now, different distros, this init RD has a different dot whatever on the end. So you have to, and those came out the Casper directory. So you have to watch if they have this .rd on the end, because sometimes when I would go from one distro to another, I wouldn't change this dot whatever's on the end, and then wonder why I wouldn't boot. So what I did was, on the NSS share, is I named the folders the same. So so like this Acronis is also directly in the NFS share as well, just to kind of keep track of things and make sure I'm not making any typos. So like if I was to update a new version of Acronis or Clonezilla, then I would just change whatever's on the end. So like if I did Clonezilla 64, then I would just change this to 64, and in the default file, I would just change it to Clonezilla 64. It just has to match up, or it won't boot, or you'll get error messages. So when it mounts, the NFS mounts, it mounts it as a CD-ROM. So when it goes to the boot process, that's where it's going. Even though mine is on a FreeNAS, it makes it look like it's on a disk or a USB flash drive. So this is on the left here. Well, far left, you kind of see like the installation disk there. And then also when I did that username equals Wendell, so that's why it pops up here. Like I said, you don't have to do that, but just kind of extra parameter on there. Because some of these you can do like one guy did a video where he did like a, what's called, what is it called? Where it booted, but then it ran through the installation itself. Came in, system minds like what they call it. But on the right here, this is as you see, is in FreeNAS, and this is what the TFP equals whatever your data set is. And then you give the IP address of whatever the box is, and then you set the permissions, because I was having permission issues at first. And once I allowed all the permissions, then it fine, because it gave me feedback on what was going on in the FreeNAS console. And this is Clonezilla, and what now is you see is it's going to run through the setup process. And Clonezilla, when I was using that, I was using it to clone machines, and I actually cloned machines back to the FreeNAS, which is running the TFP server. And you can also, I don't know if you can probably see it there, but it may show you. So now this is copying in a RAM, because you can set parameters to run a distro in RAM. And I don't know if you saw, it kind of went that path kind of fast, where it had the path of the NFS share, and then it mounted it as a CD-ROM. And PXE and Clonezilla also has a PXE boot feature itself. So you can run it. If you don't run it in memory, it'll run whatever source it's coming from. But you can also do a clone, a direct clone. So you can PXE boot into Clonezilla, and then you can, if you got, let's say, like 2 desktops, and you want to move clone 1, desktop 1 and desktop 2, you can PXE boot from the Clonezilla PXE boot, and what it would do is it will override the current PXE boot, so it'll go to the Clonezilla, and you can do like a diskless clone, to where it will just do it on its own. And or you can, I've cloned a SD card, I've cloned several laptops using Clonezilla. So I was surprised that kind of like worked. But second, what you see here is the top one is booting the Linux Mint OEM, and it has the quiet, well, I'm sorry, it has a no splash. Now see where it says loading right there? If you put quiet, it won't show that. But if you put no splash, it will just show how the files and stuff are loading, what it's doing. At the bottom is Raspbian. So you can basically use it like a regular, as if you did a full installation. And I got a HD home run attached to it. A couple of meetings, I was in Raspbian, and just to kind of see how it would work, if I had any hiccups or anything. And it ran just fine, even via a PXE Boot. So go back up to the top, that's the kind of like the OEM. And if you cancel all of it, it'll go back to the desktop. And I got to the internet fine. I was able to use my HD home run just fine. And it, with the parameters of like the keyboard and the time zone, it set all that up for me. So if I was to do like an installation, then all that be set off. I just kind of just want to just play around with it. One thing with like doing a PXE Boot, especially if you do like in a virtual machine, if you want to test rsync or you want to test sync thing, and if you happen to mess up something, then you just restart the PXE Boot. And you can install programs, but if you try to install too many and you don't have a lot of memory on the system, it'll give you an error message saying there's no more space. And you can do a restart, and whatever you're trying to install, you can try to install it. Not everything will work via PXE Boot. Sometimes you got to do a full installation for some things to work. And this is right here is just showing how the Ubuntu server, and I didn't install Ubuntu server or anything. I just kind of want to see if I can get it to work. And I had like issues at first with it, but after doing trial and error, I finally got it to work. And it'll go all the way through the whole whole installation process. And it should be up. Takes a little bit because it's running on a virtual machine. So any questions so far? I still got like a couple more I want to show, but this takes like a couple minutes to load up.
This is Stan. I wanted to say that on your splash image, I found a lot of times they have to be a certain size. And okay. I believe there's a command called convert. You can say convert whatever size, and you can specify what new size for it to change into.
Oh, okay.
So what I've done in the past, I've looked at whatever standard splash they give you and made sure that the one I wanted to use was converted to exactly that same size.
Oh, okay. So I think with this version of Ubuntu server, it goes out and grabs what it needs to load. Like I said, I didn't go all the way through the whole process. I probably could do it on, I mean, you can do it on like a virtual machine. Yeah, it turns out fine, but I didn't really need to. So I kind of just stopped before it started the installation process. I believe this is, so you see there you have your options, you choose the LAN, and it will, let's see what I choose on this. So yeah, basically it's just if you want to try different distros without using a disk or a USB flash drive, or you want to, and you just kind of want to toy around, I found the PXE Boot is kind of a good way to go.
Question, this is Stan. Could you use it like to connect, do a connection and then use it just like you would a live distro and use it for troubleshooting?
Yes, I also did that with troubleshooting like that. Also just trying like that Warpinator.
Right.
Yeah, you can do it just like a live distro.
That
And
would come in handy when you can't get to the BIOS to reset where you're booting from.
you can run like updates on it and upgrades and things like that. Also use Clonezilla, PXE Boot to wipe a couple of hard drives somebody wanted me to wipe clean. So yeah, it's good if you really want to do a lot of troubleshooting, or if you have like a system and that you let people use, and you don't have to worry about logging in or anything like that. You can have them use that. I had a desktop that it started failing, so I pulled the hard drive out, and it eventually it came back on, and I did a PXE boot using it without the hard drive being in there, and it worked out just fine. So that's a version of a thing called Linux FX or Windows FX, kind of mimic Windows, because this is kind of like would be like an OEM. Like they put a bunch of programs that they think somebody would use. So when you go to install it, a lot of stuff is already there. You don't have to go install a bunch of these are the sources that I kind of use to use it. Now they didn't do a FreeNAS pfSense PXE boot, but I kind of followed them along, and they kind of help. It kind of helped with figuring out exactly how it works and what I need to do to get mine to work. That's it.
Wow. That was good, Wendell. I think.
Yeah, it took a while to like a lot of trial and error. Sometimes I would try something and then it wouldn't boot, and I had to go back and figure out what I did prior to why I didn't. And yeah, it was for me, because it's my first time really ever doing something like this. It was a nice learning process, I will say.
No. The difference is you're admitting to the trial and error. Everybody else does the same thing.
Oh, yeah,
I always skip the first step. I just go straight to the error.
But yeah, I couldn't get Puppy Linux to work. I couldn't get Manjaro to work, and I came across a site that, if I'm saying this right, that said the reason why Manjaro wouldn't work is because they didn't implement, I guess, DHCP into the distro itself. So, because it would try to mount the disk before we try to do a network boot or a net boot.
And the Casper thing, that's something to do with the bootloader, I take it.
Yep.
I think.
You got to have these two, because these have to be listed, because this was going to, the grub menu has has it listed to look for these in there. If these are not in the Casper directory, it will not boot up. Even if you did like a extracted an ISO, took them out and then repackaged it as an ISO, it won't boot up if the image and the kernel is not in there.
Interesting.
Because I see another thing I'm gonna try to do is, I saw a guy, he did a at first I didn't really understand how it worked, but he did a multi-boot USB, something like this, but he just did it on USB and not a PXE boot. But yep, that's all I got.
Any other questions?
Could you go back to that second to last slide, Wendell, please?
Second to the last.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oops. Oh man. Oh, I'm sorry. That one.
No. Maybe it was the last slide.
That one.
Yeah,
That's
that one.
That's the last slide.
Yeah, okay, last slide. Okay. Okay.
We're recording this, Gary, so you can look at it again later.
Yeah, yeah. So what was Avramov?
I think that's somebody who actually, I guess, did a PXE boot. That's somebody's name. They just
Okay.
got last name first.
Okay.
There's one other advantage of PXE boot in that environment. You know exactly where your image is coming from.
I'm sorry, Lee, I didn't understand that. Say again.
Okay, the comment here about Aramov, he's talking about data center.
Yeah.
A big reason you use PXE boot in that environment is you know exactly where that image came from. There's no chance of it being tampered with or missing or having software added.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
That's true too.
Okay.
I remember a long time ago reading about some main corporation. They would use Linux and PXE boot to reinstall Windows on broken Windows machines. When a user called in and they had it set up, they could just plug in a script and they could put the guy's name and so forth in there and reload his Windows in about whatever time it would take to reload the Windows, and it'd be back to a good known setup that met all their standards.
This is one
Moving
of the,
right along.
This is one of the error messages I got before running Linux Mint, and then when I finally figured it out that, so I think it was trying to mount the disk, and I had to eventually figure it out to mount the NFS share, and then that issue went away.
Yeah. Slides were really good. The only suggestion I would be was to number the slides.
Okay. Make sure I do that on my next one.
Yes.
So what were you saying there with that? Well, let's see. It's a couple screens back now, but you were describing that's what you got when it's having trouble getting the PXE boot.
Yeah. It was trying to mount. It was looking for the disk, and since it couldn't find the disk, it popped that error message up.
Okay.
I think no, that's not the one. But it turns out, I believe when a system loads the CD-ROM, that /dev/SRO is looking for the first disk drive. And if it can't find it, then that's when it gives that error message.
And I believe you said that you needed to turn off you needed to make sure it was not quiet so that you could see the error message. Was that correct?
Yeah, yeah, because some of them, when I didn't do the quiet, it just, the splash screen would just be there, and nothing would happen. And then I hit like F5 or F6 to make it go away, and then I'm like, okay, it's repeating itself. Um, and sometimes it won't time out. I think like with this issue right here is because I had IP equals and it was giving me this message, but when I put IP equals DHCP, this went away.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get it to where it will actually pull up the menu, like if you were to do like a live USB, but I haven't quite figured that part out yet. So then I don't have to have so many menu selections, create them myself. And, but I got the main part to work, so I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Further comments, please? Questions?
So Wendell, what was the when you first started doing the research for the PXE Boot? Where did you find the best starting point? As far as, you know, what was the best documentation or instructional thing to start getting you into PXE Boot?
I found watching YouTube videos and watching different YouTube videos, like the ones I referenced to the sources at the end, they both do theirs differently. And then jump into Google searching and going to different websites. And I took like a bunch of like notes and trial and error and say, okay, and see how this works, see how this works. I looked at a couple of the different distros group menus, and see how those were set up, and took a little bit from one and a little bit from the other, and then pieced it together. And different websites had did different things as far as the PXE Boot. I didn't find too many that came across using FreeNAS and pfSense, so that made it a little bit harder to put two and two together. But I did come across one site that kind of gave me an idea, and a couple of the videos I've seen, I guess it really didn't dawn on me. They did an NFS mount, and I'm like, oh, okay, so let me create an NFS data set on the FreeNAS box and point it to it and see how it works. And eventually I got it to work out. I'm like, okay, that's what they've been doing the whole time.
Oh.
So I was trying to do it as just using the Samba share, and the guy, he did it to where he downloaded the ISO, and then he put on a pin line, he put ISO, a pin in where the ISO was, and he was able to boot straight from that. He didn't put in like all the stuff I put in. But when I tried to do that, it act like it's gonna load, and then it eventually just timed out. I don't know if it's a system I had it on, because the system I'm running, I'm testing it on, don't have a lot of memory on it, so that might have something to do with it. But once I replace it with something else, then I'll probably try it again and see if that works, because it would cut a lot of things out. Now you would need to just probably like the Samba share.
Okay.
Excuse me, Wendell, can you go over how big your systems are again?
I have the FreeNAS box that I'm running on. It's a custom built. It's 32 gigs of memory. It was running a RAID 1. One of the drives messed up. 1 terabyte. 2 terabyte drives. I have a a small laptop. It probably only has like 1 gig. And I've used like a virtual machine. I have a Ubuntu, but the Ubuntu is on a Docker, which is I'm loading it via USB because the all-in-one I had running it on, I believe the motherboard failed. And so I was able to yank the hard drive out, and I use a laptop that has like 4 gigs in it. And I boot the Ubuntu straight from it. And I use virtual machines as well. So a couple of different devices. They're not like real big because I eventually need to upgrade. But like I got a laptop that's like 16 years old. I've been running Linux Mint on it for the last 16 years. So, but I can't, the presentation that I just did, it won't come up on that. So I got a Mac, and so I'm doing a presentation from, well, y'all know the Mac and MacBook, because some of the videos wouldn't play on it because it's just so old.
And you said you have a Raspberry Pi running there too?
Yeah, I got a Raspberry Pi. It's running.
Is that the 2, 3, or 4?
It is the 3.
Okay.
Eventually I'm gonna go get the 4. And I'll probably run Ubuntu on the 4 just to have something to do, I guess. But yeah, with the PXE Boot, you can run it like watch TV on it. You can do Zoom calls on it. You can, if you want to go into different distros, that's kind of what I like. I kind of like having an option without having to do an image on a flash drive or a disk all the time. You can also, like, a beta version of something comes out, that'd be a good way to, you know, test out a beta version of something by actually doing an install.
And how long have you been working on this?
When I first started, let's see, I think I started in September last year. I finally got it running in November, just with work and taking a break from it. And once I got one distro to work, then I started toying with other ones, and it's been running pretty smooth since November.
And capturing messages to see what causing something to hang up or go wrong. How did you capture your messages? I always have problems that they fly by so fast I can't see them.
I was using simple screen recorder.
Okay.
And once I play something back, you know, you can pause, you can move the little bar, use the forward and reverse arrows. I'm eventually going to download a either KDN Live or another equivalent to it to kind of do stuff in more like slow motion like. But yeah, Stan has suggested simple screen recorder. I think it was like last year or the year before. And so mostly anytime I do something, I have a simple screen recorder running. So then if I do mess up something, I can go back and try to figure out what I messed up, or if something works out right, I can go back and say, okay, this is what I did to make it work.
This is Stan. I believe I did do a presentation on simple screen recorder. I will have to go check to make sure that I'm not lying to myself.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, good. I did remember something right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it in one of your things that's on SLUUG or not?
No, it's go to the presentation archives. It's in there somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and Wendell, I hadn't thought about when you're doing stuff like that, run simple screen recorder. I've been sitting here today. I have got internet trouble. Okay. And I'm switching slowly from T-Mobile. Please, nobody ever use T-Mobile for anything. And I'm switching my internet service over to AT&T and simple screen recorder. Duh. God, why didn't I think of that? Oh, probably would have saved me a couple hours today. Oh, man. It's just, things are frustrating, you know? And it's usually something you did to yourself. Or it usually is in my case anyway.
I guess I get started on another presentation. I have to figure out exactly what I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Put it out there. So, but
There are other people here in the room that could also be working on a presentation. You know, it's we are interested in your mistakes and what you did to try to correct them. And it doesn't have to be a pristine presentation. I'm really very pleased with what Wendell has done here. He's gone above and beyond what I expected. So great and very informative, given me some ideas of things to add to my never-ending to-do list. Yet another half-done project, right? Too much dead air, Gary.
You got your microphone muted, Gary.
Thank you. That's why there's so much dead air. I was muted. Otherwise, you'd hear this constant drone of inane conversation. But you bring up a good point, Stan. There's always room for more presentations. So
well,
and the presentation that Wendell did here just now, I mean, you know, really a good example of user group at its finest. It's not a product that Wendell is trying to sell. Not something that the company that he works for does. It's just something that that he found interesting and intriguing. And the story of this presentation is, hey, he started poking around and following up how it was done, and basically what he shared with us for the last hour and some odd minutes was how that all fell together, what he tracked down, how he got it to work. And that's what we all really appreciate, because it really kind of gives us a feel of how to get things done. So
I am displaying the planning schedule report. So we finished up today base and main, and on the 22nd, the St. Louis Linux user group will be the SUSE Linux Enterprise, or well, wait a minute. No, this is, oh my goodness, this is not even the it's not the latest and greatest. My goodness, I gotta. Where is that? Where's the button? Where's the button? I'm always looking for buttons.
Because Stan is always telling me, it's like, okay, Gary, have you looked at the latest and greatest version? Okay, you gotta update that. You hit the update button and get the latest version.
Yeah. And no, that's not it. This is it. Where's the refresh button on this damn thing?
I don't have any idea.
You got lots of good backups.
Oh shit.
Well, that's not actually, you're not actually running your database there. You just got screen print.
It's a PDF that's on the website. Oh, this button. Duh, dummy.
I know how that feels.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the next month's base and main are available. So, we're always looking for volunteers. Talk to Gary, wake him up,
What?
Yeah. So, I try to get him to do all the coordination, and sometimes I have to wake him up. We've been talking about, the CentOS replacements, and these are the current runners, whatever, and so we're kind of this next week's presentation of the OpenSUSE thing is the possibility of as being a replacement for CentOS, or at least they're touting it as the SUSE people are touting it as being one. There are others, the Oracle. We're trying to get somebody from Oracle to do a presentation, and there's four other contenders. A new thing that's just been released is Alma Linux, and VZ Linux, and Rocky Linux, and but we haven't had anybody step forward with that. But then CentOS 7 is good for a number of years yet, so it's something to look at. And we've got a lot of ideas. This is a couple ideas that we kind of like to fill in the next month or so. But even beyond that, and on our listing, we keep track of all the ideas we've got. We've got all kinds of ideas, but nobody that'll do them. So if you go to www.slug.org/planning.pdf, you can look at all these ideas. And if you're doing anything, even any one of these things, I mean, we must have 120 different ideas listed here. We'd appreciate you doing a presentation on them. If something simple like just talk about, do you use Linux Office Draw? Do you use the locate command? That could be a nice little base presentation, or, something about NoSQL. What the hell is that? Or NGINX web server. Perl, pfSense. You could do a presentation and talk about the managing processes with these particular commands: PS, BG, foreground, background, kill all, top, htop. You can fill a half hour. I think Dave did something in the past about RK Hunter, or no, wasn't RK Hunter? It was Linsys. There it is. Yeah. Dave did a presentation a while back on Linsys, and that's a good security tool. We got all kinds of ideas. We just need volunteers. You could
quote me on it, but I can maybe do one on pfSense. I can't say when I have it ready, but maybe.
Yeah. Oh, we're in no hurry. Just start working on it, get it done, and let us know. Unfortunately, I'm always adding to this list because I'll run across something that said, "Gee, that'd be nice if somebody," and preferably not me, because I don't know everything about everything. Might do something in the future about Ventoy. I've just started using it. It's a nice little tool that you put on it's a multi-boot system that you put on a thumb drive, and once you install to the thumb drive, you can just copy ISOs to the thumb drive. You don't have to do anything really fancy, and 9 times, they've tested it so far with well over 200 ISOs. It works. It boots. I had been using a thing called multi-system, which was a real pain in order to get something loaded on there. You could drag and drop onto it, but it went through such a horrendous installation process that if you didn't catch it, just if you made a mistake of not watching it, and the thing would bypass a certain point, and if you didn't catch it at that point, it would be corrupted. It was a kind of painful. But the Ventoy seems to be working really quite well. And that is something that we might work on. I've been working on a presentation that's really simple. They're not so simple, but rather basic, about using VI Vim. Unfortunately, I'm up to 50 slides already. and it's not just, actually, it's not just learning, or it's not just using VI, it's learning how to use VI Vim. And I've got 50 slides on it, but it's not done yet. So that's something down the road. And the question is, where do I put that? Where do we put that? It's a little bit too big to use as a base, I think, because it would run at least an hour, I'm sure, especially the way I ramble.
50 slides? Yeah, you never get through that in an hour. No way.
Actually, the first presentation I did down at Sunnin, I did 50 slides and 1 minute. And people would ask questions, and I say, I'll get to that. And I did, because I covered every, people would start asking questions, and I'll get to that. Then I had a slide for it. Bing, 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 bing. And that was in the days when I was young and crazy. And then now I'm old and crazy. So it takes me longer to do a 1 minute slide.
By the way, another one I'll point out, and here we're looking for somebody who might be willing to do a presentation on is certificates, certs, just kind of.
Gary, the problem is you can't spell it and you don't know what you're asking for.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Now, Lee is going to be doing working on one for the wildcard search authentication that we're using on SLUUG for the Let's Encrypt stuff. But honestly, Gary, I think that's not what you're looking for. Okay.
What exactly are you looking for, Gary?
Just kind of a certificates 101, 102. Not necessarily the wildcard aspect, but just a general description of how certificates work.
It takes about 30 seconds to run certbot if you have your DNS set up properly.
The problem is, Lee, the problem is Gary doesn't understand what the tool is doing or why it's doing it.
I think I did.
If you don't understand what it's doing, it doesn't do you much good to use a tool, especially if you use the tool wrong.
I love it. I love it.
All right, guys, I'm off to bed. Thanks for attending.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation.
Great. Thank you.
Definitely, Wendell. Thank you.
Good presentation, Wendell.
You're welcome.
Good. Thank you, Wendell.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thanks.
If we had the button that does the hand clap, we'd use it in Zoom.
Dan, you said you didn't know everything about everything. What if you don't know anything about anything?
Well, I do know something about everything, but it's usually wrong.
I'm talking about myself. I don't know anything about anything.
Oh.
Or who is that guy, Sergeant Schultz? I know
nothing.
Oh, I really hate Chromium.
Oh, hey, by the way, I'll make the usual suggestion to everyone. The speaker is all but if you think of something that, oh yeah, I should have asked, or I should have commented with respect to Wendell's talk tonight, by all means, go and post it and discuss. And hopefully Wendell will join us in the discussion there. Maybe some other folks will comment on their comments or questions as well. Our main speaker is Mark. Here at this point, we can broaden out the conversation.
You're breaking up, Gary. I can't understand you. Say again, Gary.
Your mic's open and we're hearing the clips on your echo.
God damn it.
Hey, somebody's typing like crazy.
God damn it.
That's
Sorry
me.
about that. I keep.
There we go. So yeah, I mean, if anybody has any other general Q&A comments, wish list.
Well, it's now approaching 9 o'clock, and if we were at the library, they'd be throwing us out. We don't have to leave. We can keep going. But by tradition, I usually like to remind people that some of these sessions could have end times. And if we were at the library, we'd have to leave. Last guy out would have to pay the $10 fine.
Yes.
We're not at Gray Bar anymore either. They usually rent us.
I'm going to suggest, since we seem to be winding down, perhaps we will end the recording. We can always restart it if we do get into a good discussion about something. But this has been the monthly SLUUG general meeting. It's Wednesday, July the 14th. It's 9 o'clock, and Wendell Barber just got done presenting on PXE Boot. Before that is the base tutorial. We had Stan Reichert presenting on Data Farm in LibreOffice. So, thank you all for coming this evening, and I think we'll probably kill the recording now, and anybody who wants to can still hang around and chit chat.
I'm shutting off the Zoom recording now. If I can find the button.